Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Dan's Haunted Cottage again. A bit too close to the camera there. Don't want to crack the lens. Um, right, I just wanted to do a little bit of a talk today, give you a little bit of an idea of who I was prior to doing videos for YouTube, and the type of things that I used to do, just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. Now, as you know, I was a zookeeper for many, many years. But let's go back further than that. Let's go back to when I was a child. I was always infatuated with animals, like I guess a lot of children. And I couldn't wait for the summer holidays to roll around. And they seemed a lot longer, those halcyon days of summer when I was a kid. And it was a long time ago. But they seemed a lot longer. And they seemed to be really child-friendly as opposed to the way that children behave today, never leaving their house, sitting on computers, wasting and whiling their lives away in some kind of artificial world. They don't go into the real world and enjoy it like we used to, or like I used to, and people from my generation. But anyway, I used to love walking in the woods, walking in the forests, walking anywhere that was rural or in Mother Nature, and looking for bugs and insects, just looking for general wildlife. Like a lot of kids, I guess, at that time, prior to the technological age, as it were. But the one thing that I was always obsessed by, even as a child, was wolves. And I always swore that as I got older, that maybe one day if I had the opportunity, that I would take it and I would work with them. And I would get any bit of information on wolves, any book that I could find as a child, and I would read it avidly, and I would soak up this information, soak up this knowledge about these animals, because I enjoyed it, and it was that much easier to do when you enjoy something, when you love something. And that love progressed, and as I got older, I got invited to work at different organisations that were for either wild canids or wolves, which is a wild canid. Probably know that anyway. Don't need to teach you that, I'll tell you that rather. And as time went on, I worked for different organisations looking after wolves, hand rearing wolves, being a maternal, just being maternal towards them, being a mother towards them or for them. In the absence of their own mother rearing them, I used to hand rear them. And then I got taken on by a zoo that had started to getting into wolves, and they basically got or they were expecting a couple of wolves. No, they had a couple of wolves by the time that I arrived. They were very, very young, and with my experience and background of working with wolves, they took me on as the head wolf keeper or the wolf curator. And it was pretty much the same job that I'd done prior to that. It was hand rearing wolves, spending time with them, investing all of my time into them, and just looking after them, nannying them, and being parent to them, really being mother and father, as it were. The wolves that I hand reared initially were, all wolves are very special. All wolves are just amazing creatures. They're an integral part of the ecosystem from which they come. And when they're removed from that ecosystem, when they're removed from that natural balance, then things get out of kilter. They are super, super important cog, as all animals are in the natural environment. But these guys sit at the top of it. These are A-line predators, top predators. That's not to say that they pose any problem to us, because wolves, believe it or not, they don't. All this fairy tale and myth is purely and simply just that. They use the image of a wolf. Well, Little Red Riding Hood, for example, just to give you an idea, they used the image of the wolf, and it was basically to teach young girls to be careful of the wily ways of young men, because young men are cunning, and to never go off with one, and to never leave yourself open to one, because they will exploit the situation. I'm sure you all know where I'm going with that. But what they did is they used the wolf. The wolf's got a bad name for no reason. No real reason apart from personal grudges that certain people have had. Now, the wolves that I looked after, they were extra special, because the wolves that I looked after, and I've hand reared 15, possibly 20 wolves, and I've also been integral in helping other people hand rear their wolves as well. So I've been involved with rearing lots and lots of wolves over the years. But the wolves that I hand reared that were at the zoo, that were taken in by the zoo, were super, super special, historically important, because not only were they European wolves, which you just don't get in this, well, you don't get them in this country in zoos, because they're well, they're not in any breeding programs, and they're not The ones that we get in this country generally are North American. But the ones I had they come under the Latin name Canis lupus lupus, and they were European and Eurasian wolves. And they were super important because they were the first wolves born in Great Britain, European wolves born in Great Britain in 250 years. I believe the last ones were in Great Britain were killed in the Highlands of Scotland in about 1743-45. And in England, they hadn't been here prior to them being born. They hadn't been here, the ones that I was hand rearing being born, they hadn't been here for 700 years, 7 centuries. You're looking at the medieval period. You're looking at a time when 95% of Great Britain or England was woodland. But yeah, they'd gone extinct 700 years ago, and so my ones were the first ones to be born here in 700 years. And there was one wolf, I had a special relationship with all my wolves that I'd hand reared, particularly my Europeans. But there was one wolf that I hand reared, and she was super special because the bond that I had with her was like no bond that I've ever had with, well, most other things, most other people, most other animals. The bond I had with her was super special. We absolutely adored and loved each other. She used to follow me around. She'd spend time with me. I would always go and spend time with her. When she was not very well, like some other wolves, I used to go and spend evenings in the enclosures. I'd get my sleeping bag, I'd unroll it in the night, it might be freezing. I'd settle down in the wolf den where she used to sleep, and then I would cozy up next to her, or she would cozy up next to me once she stopped pulling the sleeping bag and trying to play. She would settle down, and we would just fall asleep together, cuddling each other. And she was an amazing wolf. She was just phenomenal, and her name, as I say, I don't know if I said, her name was Luana. Sadly, she died quite young. She passed away. She suffered with some form of fitting, some form of epilepsy. We never quite got to the bottom of what it was. But when she passed, I was devastated. I guess you guys can understand. It's like anybody that's hand-reared an animal or had an animal. They become part of your family. They become a big part of your life. They're as important as anything else in your life. And that was how I felt and still feel about Luana. I still miss her as much today as I did all those years ago when she passed. But she was phenomenal. And I just want to show you a couple of photos of myself and Luana. Luana, really. And this is the first one to show you what a stunning animal, stunning wolf she was. She was absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And I also have this one, chubby me, still chubby now, well, more than chubby now, but what I used to do, I didn't even know this one was being taken, and I used to like to put bits of food in my mouth, and she enjoyed it as well, and she would jump up and she would just grab them out of my mouth, and then she would eat them. And it was, I think that was a piece of chicken. Yeah, that was a piece of chicken. But that was on one of our walks. Now, she used to have an enclosure that was fairly big, but for environmental enrichment, what I used to do is I used to take her out, and it was okay, it was legal, it was okay to be done. After the public had left the zoo, I would take her out on walks around the woodland so that she'd get all the different smells and sights. And it was a form of environmental enrichment for her. Look at those beautiful long legs. Not mine. Mine are short and stubby. Hers are beautiful long legs. And you can just see, I mean, she was, like all wolves, she was a super intelligent being, a phenomenal animal. And the relationship I had with her was spiritual. It was loving, it was amazing, it was phenomenal, and I've never experienced that kind of bond with another animal. I mean, yeah, sure, I've got bonds with other animals. I love all my animals, but the one bond that I had with her was something that transcended that. It was I don't know. It was just super special and super spiritual, and I've missed her ever since the day she passed, as I say. But she was an amazing creature, and I used to deal in wolf education because, as I say, I was the wolf education officer. I was the head wolf curator, wolf keeper, and part of my job was dealing in the education of not just not of wolves, but the public. I used to educate them about the plight of wolves, and I used to educate them about, you know, things that a lot of people they seem to think that the way that a wolf has been portrayed through history and culture, that it's this mad salivating beast that comes from the forest and will steal your children from under your nose. That's our game, unfortunately. That describes us. Everything that we use to describe the wolf in a negative term is a mirror reflection of ourselves. You know, wolves, they aren't like that. They aren't this mad salivating beast. They aren't dangerous to the point of they're going to come out of the woods or out in the mountains and come down and steal your children. This is all myth and fairy tale. This is a culture that has been born and raised around the idea of what humans think of a wolf, or certain humans think of a wolf. But luckily, due to science and due to enlightenment, we now see them for what they are, which is a highly intelligent creature that is, as I say, is an integral part of an ecosystem that keeps that balance. It keeps the balance, and it's important that it's an important message, and it's an important message that needs to be out there. Anyway, just wanted to give you an insight into the type of things that I used to do and who I was prior to doing videos for YouTube. And you know, as I say, luckily all those ideas have changed now. But I hope you're all okay. I hope you're all happy. I hope you're having a fun day, and just do something for me. Be kind to each other, look out for each other, and be there for one another. Speak to you soon, guys. Bye.